Hello, good morning. I hope you can hear me and see me. It's just let me know in the chat box if everything is working fine. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Yeah, hello. Okay, good. So I think everything's working fine. Okay, good morning. My name is Aleksandra Kieltucka. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher trainer, and I'm a teacher training consultant at Pearson. And I hope that you're enjoying your morning today and you're enjoying the sessions in spite of the weather, because where I live, it's pretty gloomy October day. So I don't know about your weather. What's the weather like in your place? Is it autumn already? Is it still Indian summer? What's the weather like where you live? Very rainy, yeah, okay, so it's very rainy here as well. Okay, so I hope that today I will also contribute to your good humor, okay, and having a good day. So today I'm going to be talking about hacking learning in exam preparation classes with a certain formula for the future. Okay, I would like to kick off with a short quote. So let me show you. It's not short, actually. It's a pretty longish quote. So let me start with this. So please concentrate on the screen for a little while. And this is the quote that describes people's reaction to something, okay? So I would like you to read it, okay? Could you please read it and identify, guess perhaps, what is described here? So what kind of reaction is it? What is this reaction to? So take a look at it and just let me know what you think. It's pretty long, I know, but what do you think it could be a reaction to? Any ideas? So there are certain keywords like unprepared, frightened, resentful, helpless, okay? Some sort of intruder is described in the quote. Yeah, it looks like technology, our previous lockdown, okay? Yeah, something related definitely to technology. And actually, this is also the way, the internet, yes. This is also the way to start your lessons, okay? You may actually make your students curious, but by presenting them with a quote and telling them to guess the context in which it was first produced, okay? So let me give you a clue, okay? So one of the items that you can see on the slide right now was described by this photo. So which one do you think that is? Is it the smartphone? Is it the Walkman? Anybody remembers Walkman? You know, this little box with cassettes and headphones attached? Or maybe it's a TV or maybe a radio. So what do you think? What was it a reaction to? Smartphone. It could be anything actually, but it turns out that it was the radio whose popularity grew rapidly in the US in the 1920s and the 1930s. And on the one hand, it was considered to be like the golden age of radio and its commercial and entertaining function. But as you can see, many people, including the author of the quote, were pretty concerned about how this disturbing and disruptive invention would change human relationships, interactions, cognitive abilities, and also public discourse, okay? So they predicted that people will become illiterate. They will not be able to think critically. Personal relationships will fall apart. But if we substitute the internet, smartphones, or any kind of technology or online learning as the new invader, this quote could pass for something written today. Online teaching, for example, as well. So when you think of each technological advancement, okay, we do not always embrace it with open arms. So not all the inventions were welcome with open arms. People very often had mixed feelings about the inventions. They were either excited or the inventions just freak them out. So the concept behind this is that people very often like to be in our comfort zone, right? So anything that is challenging, anything that is different, anything that poses a threat, okay? We don't like this, right? Not all of us are open to change, hence the fear. And this is how we normally react to change. What you can see right now is the change curve, which was originally invented by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross to explain emotions and phases through which people go during the grieving process when some member of their family dies. But experts accept these phases as the process that most people go through whenever we are experiencing change, okay? So the first reaction to change is typically shock, okay? So our minds go into that fight or flight mode, okay? We don't know what to do. We either freeze or we just want to escape the situation, and we don't want to have anything to do with it. And then we must spend some energy to understand why this change is happening to us, okay? And very often we experience some kind of dip in productivity. So our productivity decreases quite dramatically because we don't know we're in a new situation and we don't know how to tackle it, how to handle it. But once feelings of shock and denial are in the past, what happens is anger and frustration set in, okay? So during this phase, we want to find someone to blame for the change. We want to find a kind of scapegoat, yes? So very often people get depressed, they struggle to come to terms with reality. And at this point, our performance is at its lowest. But once, the dust settles in and we have to, we realize that we need to come to terms with the change, we begin to experience a positive swing in emotions, okay? So we try to accept the change, we try to tackle it, we try to find our own ways to deal with it. And we may even get excited about, new opportunities that it presents us with. So the question is, where are you on the change curve regarding technology, okay? So are you still in the state of shock? I doubt it, because we have gotten used to it already. Are you denying reality? So are you trying to say that, it isn't happening to me? Are you frustrated and depressed? Okay, so where are you regarding technology use in the classroom? Are you excited? Yes, you're trying to experiment with it. Yes, you are trying to find your own ways to deal with it, to put, for example, learning platforms and apps to a new use, to see how they work in the classroom and what kind of effect they might have on your students, all right? Any other responses? Okay, so where might you be? Have you made a informed decision to deal with it on an everyday? Yes. So sometimes we decide, yes, okay, I need to do it anyways, okay? Sometimes frustrated because it might play up a little bit in the classroom, okay? So we have like the whole array of emotions and the whole array of feelings related to technology. But the change curve translates very nicely into this model to describe teacher confidence in using technology. So this flowchart from survival to innovation also helps you what kind of way sometimes we go along when we are dealing with technology and when we are trying to find our own way to master it, okay? So survival is this first initial reaction, okay? I don't want to touch it, I don't want to break it, I know I should use it, yes, but I don't know how. Then mastery, when you are, consciously making an effort to use it, little baby steps, one step at a time, one step every day. Then you may master it, okay? So you've received training, you've practiced with apps, you used it in your lessons with success, and you are trying to experiment with it. And you know what kind of impact it might have on the classroom and on what's going on in the classroom, right? So you use it effectively, it's embedded in your lessons, you're planning consciously how to use it, to the point when you have become an innovator, right? So you are digitally literate And as you might be with pedagogy, as you surely are with pedagogy on the subject matter, okay? So you innovate and you maybe share your innovations with other teachers. So this is of course a process, and you may slide smoothly from one segment to another, and you might also decide to stop at a certain stage. But what happens in between these stages, in order to progress, we need to hack, yes? We need to hack technology, and we need to find our own way to deal with the problem with technology, which is not a problem. But I think that if technology is here to stay, and it is here to stay, we may still doubt whether technology will replace teachers. There is, a great deal of discussion around the issue. Will robots take over at a certain point? Will AI take over? And I think that after the pandemic, we saw that teachers who do not use at least some of the technology maybe will not be replaced by technology, but might be replaced by teachers who do use technology consciously, okay? Who try to integrate it into the fabric of their classroom for several reasons, because, I think that each of us has a different reason why we're using technology in the classroom, okay? So it definitely facilitates the presentation of the material in ways that take advantage of learners' existing knowledge, and using, multiple sensory modalities and channels. It supports varied practice that is essential to development of knowledge and skills. We deliver information visually. We deliver information using podcasts, using apps, okay, using interactive whiteboards. And it offers new ways to capture and hold students' attention. So this is something that we're always struggling for, the attention of the students, okay? Not only just to get it, but also to hold it for as long as 45 minutes or longer, right? And it helps us, technology helps us to have this sustained engagement of our students. And it offers great flexibility of handling the material, okay, which can be done in the classroom. Sometimes you can assign your students with some tasks, okay, to be performed on a learning platform, okay, to be performed at home. So learning, they have like a non-stop access to learning if they have a non-stop access to a learning platform, okay? So they can learn anytime, anywhere, through websites, through platforms and apps. So therefore, technology encourages also better spacing of learning, okay, of study over the axis of time, okay? So our students do not have to block the practice just before the lessons, just before the meetings, but they can do it also while standing in a line, okay, in a shop, for example. So it offers also automated assessment, but also this low stakes testing, okay? Testing without grades that supports retrieval practice. Well, obviously, you also have your own why you're using technology, okay? Can you give me this why? Can you give me the reason? What is your primary reason for using technology in the classroom? Is it because you have to, because you are forced to do it? Because you are still experimenting with it, because you see some other advantages of it? So what is your why for technology? Can you share, please? Maybe it's there, yes, to make it more vivid, yeah, to make your lessons more vivid, more energetic, yes. Sometimes they are better involved, yes, they are better engaged, all right? So we're talking about Generation Z, okay? So they were born with technology. Yes, because we want to be closer to our students, because our students use technology. So in order to be closer to their world, we have to use the same environment. It's time saving and engaging, and it also saves a lot of our work, okay? I used a lot of times today, I've used the word hacking. So when hacking comes to mind, okay, we have different associations, we have different connotations with the word. Yeah, it can be time-consuming technology. But when we talk about hacking, okay, what happens, what kind of associations do you have when you hear the word hacking? what associations get triggered, positive or negative, okay? Because hacking, yes, it's stealing. Yes, it is both. Yes, it is something negative. It brings damage, right? It's the act of compromising digital devices, okay, and networks when somebody gains this unauthorized access to it, right? It's the act of misusing, attacking the network, right? Without any permission and also without any knowledge. Yes, of the person who is the owner of the network. Corruption, so changing, damaging it in order to gain some profits, right? Well, definitely this is something illegal and something stealthy, right? But, you know, hacking can also be positive when you think of life hacking, okay? Like, you know, the zip pin that we can put to a whole variety of uses at home, okay? And very often it saves our time and energy as well, okay? So I have this like a windshield on my balcony that protects my balcony from the wind and rain, and it's also attached by means of zip pins, and it's a life hack, okay? So hacking also means, you know, coming up with unusual solutions, okay? Simplifying your life, okay, to a greater efficiency, providing some kind of shortcuts, okay? So for example, you know, all the life hacks are designed to keep you on task or to speed you through these mundane daily chores, okay? To reduce your energy output, okay? So you don't have to work that much if you use life hacking, and to increase your productivity, all right? And also there is some kind of novelty in it because you are putting old things to a new use, okay? Do you have any life hacks that you're using every day, that you use every day? Something that can be classified as a life hack. So for example, my life hack is whenever I light a candle, okay, I'm really afraid of burning my fingertips, okay? So I read somewhere that you can use a stick of spaghetti, yes, to have this longer stick, not to burn your fingers with, you know, short matches. So I think that everybody has some favorite life hacks, okay, that minimize your effort. So another way to define hacking is simply by the use of technology or related knowledge to successfully bypass a challenge. So since today we're talking about this hacking formula for exam classes, okay, I think that technology gives us this unprecedented opportunity to align our teaching with the way the mind works, when principles of human cognition can inform the effective use of technology. So when we think about teaching and technology, learning and technology, we can see kind of closed circuits, okay? Because technology comes to the aid of teaching, to the aid of cognition, and cognition also reinforces technology because we are, you know, technology comes out of our minds, okay? But also the workings of our minds can be improved by the use of technology. So today I would like to focus on this kind of technology that can be used in the classroom that amplifies the cognition of our students and makes it even better and more effective. So the principles of a learner's cognition have been used to a great extent in very groundbreaking and flexible and enjoyable course to the exam success that leads your students to the exam success formula courseware. You know, and at this point, I have a little confession to make because I started using formula, I think it was last September. And I'm telling you, it was not love at first sight, and it was not even love at the second sight. So at the first encounter, this book did not set my hair on fire, and I just put it away, and I didn't know why. And then but I had this niggling sensation at the back of my mind that, I was somehow attached to it. I was somehow, drawn to this courseware in a, mysterious way. So I just kept coming back to it. And I wanted to see how it works because it definitely worked differently from my previous exam courses. And I didn't know why, because it is not a topic-based syllabus. It's not a topic-based courseware, okay? So sometimes you have this impression you meet someone for the first time and you don't feel this instant connection, but you try to figure them out. So this is what I did with Formula. So my love with Formula came when I hacked into its content and read all the instructions, okay? So sometimes you open the book and you know what it's all about because this is, the traditional syllabus that you are already used to implementing in your classroom. But here the story was a little bit different, okay? I had to read all the instructions. I had to, compare what the teacher book says with what the course book says, and I had to somehow connect it all in my mind. So next up, a little bit of scanning ensued. What's inside, how the material is organized, and the more I was digging in the course, the more I was into it. Okay, so I finally gained this unlimited access and understood how it works, okay? Because it works differently. If you use Formula in your teaching, okay, you see that each unit is organized around, for example, at the B2 level, around colors, okay? And each color opens up a great opportunity to talk about different subjects, okay? So for example, when we talk about the color blue, we talk about the origin of the color, things that happen in nature and life once in a blue moon, the blue house that used to be Frida Kahlo's home, blue light that affects our sleep patterns. We talk about our favorite numbers and colors. So topics change and they take different perspectives on the issues, all right? So each unit helps you to provide your students with varied topics and varied themes, okay? So I was used to, teaching topically, thematically, like, law and order. And we continued law and order for like, 7 lessons, okay? And here, each page is a surprise, okay? Presents you with a different topic and the students are not that bored. They do not switch off. What is important for me is the fact that Formula is highly flexible and it can be customized for my class depending on the number of hours that I teach in this class. Also the language areas my students need to develop and the needs that they have. So you can teach the course of 30, 50, 80, and 100 hours, okay? So super intensive and extensive. And you always have 4 building blocks at your disposal, okay? They tell you each time how to adjust your syllabus, what kind of components you need to use, okay? What kind of sections you need to cover in the class, what kind of sections can you assign for homework, and how to use digital resources with it, okay? So therefore, Formula is definitely a groundbreaking course, but all the fun begins when you start using the new digital platform, okay, Pearson English Connect. It's like the next stage of hacking when the hacker sprawls out on the chair and because he's just gained access to the content and it's up for something more. So it is with this parallel component, digital component, that Formula unfolds and maximizes its enormous potential. So I would like to show you how I use Formula with Pearson English Connect in the classroom and how the tool may magnify the effect of learning and teaching and how Pearson English Connect magnifies the effect of paper component and how you can use it online and offline to hack into your students' brains and design digital learning that where technology aligns with your students' cognition, okay? So when we talk about hacking, the very first step in each hacking procedure is reconnaissance, okay? So hackers gather essential information to see if they're interested in hacking into a particular system. And I thought that that's very similar to the first initial stage of the lesson when we try to encourage our students, when we try to whet their appetites for more, okay? So the beginning of our lesson must be deliberately, cleverly surprising, and very often counterintuitive. So we need to create this information gap for them in order to arouse their curiosity, okay? So very often this gap feels like some sort of mental itch, like a mosquito bite in the brain, okay? So they think that they know about something, but it turns out that they don't have the whole picture, that they don't have the full picture. So like, you open the formula at B2 level, and the first unit, the first page opener, presents you with a beautiful picture of a blue city, of the blue walled city, all right? So how can you draw your students into the lessons, all right, into the lesson? So normally I would think of, some really creative ways to deal with the picture, but with Pearson English Connect, you've got this beautiful feature, the bulb, yes, which takes you straight to teacher's notes, okay? It will open up teacher's notes, and that may give you extra ideas on how to do particular exercises. And also it provides you with background knowledge on which you may build your creative ideas about how to hack the beginning of the lesson. So we learn here that this photo shows a street, yes, in Morocco. And why was it painted blue? Okay, because the blue is the color that scares mosquitoes away. So having read this, I wouldn't be myself if I didn't use that in the classroom, okay? So I also used the feature of Pearson English Connect platform, which allows you to show your students the whiteboard and upload the picture. So you may upload the picture on the whiteboard, okay? So I uploaded the picture of the mosquito and the fragment of the photo, and I asked my students, okay, what do you think the connection between these two is? Okay, so they know all about mosquitoes from experience. Probably, well, they are familiar with the color blue. Maybe they have seen blue walled cities before, but it's very difficult for them to establish, the connection, okay? So this is this mental itch that I provoke at the beginning, because I want to whet their appetite for knowledge, okay? So they will be dying to know what the connection is, all right? So in the meantime, they come up with a lot of creative ideas of how to connect the two. If you want to work lexically here, you may also ask them to list as many phrases, as many words related to mosquitoes and related to such a town, such a city. But you can also ask them about list as many emotions, as many skills, as many consequences of, mosquito bite, for example, as many ideas that come to your mind when you see the color blue. You can also ask them to compare and contrast two seemingly incomparable pictures and ideas, okay? So their thinking, gets triggered and gets prepped for more information to come, and they want to get to know this information. You can start the same lesson using the very same picture on Pearson English Connect platform, using this little toolbar that presents you with a lot of options. One of these options is this area option, which covers up the whole space, okay, of the whiteboard, and it only shows the small fragment that you have marked. So in this situation, I just chose this boy in the center of the picture, and I asked my students to, normally you ask them to describe the photo, right? Okay, but after some time they get fed up with it. Okay, again we need to describe the photo. Okay, so this time I was looking for something different, and I came up with the idea of asking them to ask as many questions as they might have about the photo. Okay, don't describe the photo for me. Don't describe what you see. Don't describe this little fragment. Try to ask as many questions as you can about the photo, which you actually cannot see, all right? So just on the basis of this little fragment of the photo, what kind of questions can you generate about the whole picture, okay? So I usually give them, the limited amount of time, so and ask them to come up with 20 or 30 questions, okay? So when you look at these questions, they can start with, okay, who is this boy? Where is he going? Where is he? But then they will generate more and more creative ideas, okay? Because they start thinking about what they cannot see, not about what they see. So the brains are primed for the content to come, okay? Because they will be eager to find out about the boy, about the city, and about the mosquitoes, okay? So they are looking for answers that have already been formed in their minds, right? So this prediction, this predictive activity always helps to engage the students, okay? They more thoroughly in the material because it helps them to understand. It opens up certain mental, framework, and the brain always embeds pieces of new information in the network of perceptions, facts, and thoughts and experiences. So we need to, get them ready. We need to prepare this mental framework for more knowledge, for new knowledge, and therefore, asking them to predict certain contents, okay, also engages them and helps them to take in this new knowledge more effectively. Therefore, it boosts learning. So the next phase in hacking is scanning. In this phase, the hacker identifies the quickest and the most effective way to gain access to the network and look for information. So it's all about information extraction. So the hacker wants to extract as much information about the system as it is possible. So I like to think of this phase in the classroom as extraction of knowledge, okay, and information from the teacher or the course book, where a new language or a new skill or new strategy is presented to my students and practiced in a step-by-step method, all right? So whenever it's time to study, you simply open the book, right? And you think how you're going to teach them, okay? And obviously you go into this full spread view on PEC, on Pearson English Connect, and you'll be using the presentation tool. Whenever I work with formula, I always look for the following signposts on the page, okay? Exam file, exam boost, exam focus, and exam trainer, and exam trainer, okay? So why are these signposts so important, okay? Because these exam file sections help you students, they refer you students to this little fold out booklet at the back cover of the course book, okay, where they can find the most basic information about the structure of the exam, about the structure of each exercise, about what they are supposed to do before, during, and after doing the exercise. And they are also presented with these small micro exercises that can help them to put the strategy into practice. Example sections, okay, take students again to the exam file where they can find these extra exercises. Exam focus section draws students' attention to the specific demands of the exam tasks, okay, here in the course book. And finally, the one and only exam trainer. It's a kind of a workbook, and these signposts at the end of each lesson take students to the relevant pages in the trainer where they can find further intensive practice for the exam part. So as you can see, there are, there's a lot of extra material that goes with, full spread view. I use exam file as self-study material. Okay, so here you can see the screenshot from the exam file. But again, it depends on how many hours you've got, right? On a Pearson English Connect platform, you can assign this as kind of homework to your students. Okay, so they need to study it at home. They need to find out about, the strategies that they need to implement with particular exam tasks, but also you can always like do it in a little bit different way. You can first do the exercise and you can ask them, okay, how are you going to approach it? How do you have any kind of strategy? Do you know how to deal with this task? All right. And then they can compare what they do with what is prescribed in the or what is advised in the exam file. But again, it depends. Sorry, it depends on your group, it depends on the students, it depends on their needs and how advanced they are in self-study, all right? So once they have their own way of dealing with the task, they can, you know, as I said, compare it with the exam reference. So you can use exam file like this, all right? Assigning students with the task to be done at home. So again, this method of self-study is used efficiently in the exam trainer because the first part begins with some information about the task, when the students are provided practical information about the task, what the task consists of. And then in the test part, that you can see on the left-hand margin, the students are given practice task, which is actually the reduced version of the exam task when they can try out the strategies. So sometimes they can modify the strategies, okay, that they have read about in exam file, and they can try their hand and brain at work here with mini tasks, okay? So they can, of course, write their own answers. Again, if you assign this task as homework, you can see what kind of answers they have written, and you can see where they are stuck, okay, what the problem might be, and you can address these problematic areas in the classroom. So again, this learning happens at any time, and you've got access with Pearson English Connect platform. You've got access to what's going on in your students' brains and how they are dealing with exam tasks, all right? So as I told you, you can assign the task and you can see their answers because they can send you the answers straight away. After so much practice, you may easily direct, yes, sometimes students are more technologically advanced than teachers, okay? So we need to keep up to date with that all the time. And sometimes, you know, I'm not afraid to ask my students for advice, okay? If I don't know how to do something, you know, I just ask them, you know, can you show me? And they are so happy that they know more than I do, and they are very helpful. So after, you know, so much practice, you may easily direct the students to the exam task, but very often when it comes to this task, multiple choice reading task, my students struggle because of the amount of the text. So they are afraid that they will not understand vocabulary in the text. The very length of the text scares them away, and they, you know, hit the panic button, okay, when they have to, whenever they have to deal with multiple choice reading. So, and very often the worries are compounded by the following mistakes that they make while dealing with the task. They read the text without knowing what they are supposed to be, what they are supposed to do, because they haven't read the strategies, for example. They do not underline key information. They are looking for exactly the same words and phrasing in the text that they see in the answers, okay? So what I do here, I ask my students, even before they read the text, I ask my students to first look at the questions and the answers and try to paraphrase the answers. So I might put them in pairs or in groups, okay, to paraphrase A, B, C, D answers to come up with their own, you know, sentences. Think how this sentence can be paraphrased in the text. So then they look for similar fragments in the text. So once they have paraphrased the answers, they know what they are looking for, because they, at this point, they will have understood that they are not looking for exactly the same words, but they are looking for paraphrases. And next, I ask them to decide which fragments are synonymous and which ones are different. And in this way, they will be more likely to find the correct answers, okay? You can also do it if you are in the virtual classroom. You can also do it in breakout rooms if you are teaching online, all right? So the next step in hacking is gaining access. So in the third phase of hacking, the hacker gains access to database, to systems, to applications, and escalates the user privileges. And again, when we think about the very phrasing, gaining access, escalating user privileges, controlling the system, it reminds me of the stage in the lesson when students need to gain access to their knowledge, to intensify and to reinforce the ownership of their knowledge, to have full control over what they are doing. And the only way to achieve this is by practicing what they have studied. And in this stage, in the free form, that will activate their accumulated knowledge. So I used to think that my role as a teacher is to show students what kind of strategies they can avail themselves of. So I just focused during the lesson, I focused on presenting and, talking them through strategies. Because I thought that, practicing is a waste of time. They can do it at home. And then, I was feeling a little bit guilty when my students were practicing, were doing exercises, and I was just, hovering over them. I was just, monitoring them. I felt guilty that I was not working. Well, I was working actually, but they were working more than I did because it's, the role of the students to be more tired than the teacher during the classroom, during the class. So we are tired, we get tired before as we are planning the lesson, okay? But I think that, this deliberate practice is very important because very often at home, they do not have time to practice deliberately and they do not have this opportunity to get feedback from us, all right? So therefore, it's important to gain access to their knowledge through practicing. So whatever specific cognitive skills you want your students to develop, they should have multiple opportunities to practice beforehand and to practice in the classroom, okay? So I don't want to devote my valuable classroom time by, preaching to my students about what kind of strategies they need to implement. I just want them to get dirty practicing the strategies, because very often if they don't do that, they may end up like in the cartoon, that they have the right tool, they have the strategy, but they don't know how to use it, yes, or they use it in a wrong way. So again, what you can do, how to organize this kind of practice, let's use the example of open cloze. So if you want to provide them with more practice, we might start from the scratch, okay, which means the trail that you know already. So we refer them to the exam file, okay, we ask them to read up on strategies, okay, at home. To do this micro exercise, okay, that will show them how to apply these strategies in practice. But again, I will devote my classroom time to more intensive and more deliberate practice with my feedback. So what I would do with open cloze, for example, I would revisit the text or the exercises that we have done before. So for example, I use the reading task to design open cloze task. So I start with something that they are familiar with. I hate when whichever part of the book is going to waste. So the best way to use the text is to use this toolbar and to use this hide area, okay? And I simply cover certain words in the text. So obviously my students do not know, even though they read the text, they do not know the text by heart. And they will be struggling, okay, to guess what kind of words, what kind of language I covered in the text. So at this point, I usually tell them, it's the same category of words. So try to first guess if it's the verbs that I covered, if it's the nouns, maybe prepositions or auxiliaries. So I focus on one category of words to make it a little bit easier for them. So once they guess one gap, they will be more likely to come up with the answers for others, okay? So they try to complete the missing words, determining first the category that the words represent. And it makes it so much easier for them. They work in a familiar environment. They are not distracted by the new content. In this way, they can direct all the mental powers to work out the answer. And there are many other ways that you can use familiar text to do open closes. So another way, so the first one is give them a text that they know and test just one language point, cover this language point, cover all the prepositions, remove all the prepositions, remove all the verbs, remove all the nouns or pronouns, okay? So another way of having this really easy start is for example, asking them to underline the word around the imagined gap and explain why they make the word in the gap necessary. So the students get the text in full, okay? And you ask them, imagine that one of the words is the gap, and circle it and tell me, justify why you think this word is necessary in this gap, okay? So look at the neighboring text. Look at what happens, what goes before the gap and after that, and explain it to me. So it's another way of, this deliberate practice that they can use. You can give them a text with wrong words and ask them to explain why they are not possible in this particular context, okay? So just take out the words that belong to the sentence and put different words, put wrong words, and ask students to determine what's wrong with the text. Oh, there are some wrong words. So tell me why this word should not go in this gap. So the next thing you can do is give them the words for the gaps. So just give them single words, okay? And ask them to build sentences around them. And it also makes them sensitive to, to the sentence, to the syntax, and to how the whole syntax and the whole sentence contributes to building and recognizing the content of the gap. And last, give them first and the last word of the sentence, and it focuses their attention on the mechanics of the sentence, okay? Because they have to build up the sentence from the scratch, okay? So they have to create the sentence, all right? So this is what it would look like, all right? The text removing the same category of words, then the students think about the gap, so which word could constitute the gap in the sentence, and they focus on the neighborhood of the gap. Then the sentence with wrong words. Next up, you give them just the word and they have to build the sentence around it. And you give them the first and the last word of the sentence, and they have to build the sentence within, inside, or between these words, okay? And it helps them realize how all the words, word sequences, phrases, and collocations work to build the gap. You can also, if you're teaching online, you can again use the virtual classroom, and you can make it a little bit more challenging for your students, for example, using timer and score features, okay? Spicing up this a little bit, giving them time limit to come up with the answers, and also putting them in teams. So what is important is this deliberate practice that might that lead your students to perfection, all right? Before I didn't do that in the classroom. Right now, I focus extensively to, I make sure to provide my students with as much practice as I can. And the last stage of hacking is maintaining access. The hacker secures access to the system, to the network. And similarly, our students need to maintain access to previously acquired and practiced knowledge by systematically revisiting it, okay? So we need to get them to retrieve the information. We need retrieval practice. So a strategy so deeply rooted in the science of learning, because it reaches back, it helps students to reach back and pull out all the necessary information and examine what they know. We know it significantly increases learning. It's not about rereading, which gives the students illusion of fluency. They think they know when they see the word, the phrase, but when they need to deliberately recall it, they do not remember. So what is important is to do the retrieval practice without books, okay? To provoke students, to encourage them to invest a certain amount of effort in retrieving information, okay? I like this definition of retrieval practice by Doug Lamoth, okay? Because it's relevant to skills and knowledge. The more opportunities we provide our students with to practice the exam skills and knowledge, the better they will remember. The more we will revisit certain tasks, okay, and present them to our students in a new form, okay, we provide them with yet another opportunity to do this retrieval practice in a very intentional, conscious, and deliberate way. And well, obviously, there are many benefits to retrieval practice. It improves their learning. It helps students to identify gaps in their knowledge, and it makes the process of learning more conscious, it also increases metacognition, and there are many, many more aspects to that. So they need to build not, isolated items, isolated pieces of knowledge, but with retrieval practice, they learn how to connect this knowledge. And I'm sure that some teachers do that with testing, but I'm sure that we all have very negative connotations with the word test, okay? But with Pearson English Connect, we have access to test generator feature, which gives you multiple occasions, multiple opportunities to provide your students with mini tests, okay, that cover really all the language points that have been covered in the unit. So you can use it not as a test, but yet as another opportunity to practice, as a learning tool, okay? So I love using these little tests, but I never grade my students for them. I just treat them as a learning tool. So with retrieval practice, it's important that we keep it small, we keep it frequent, and we don't keep it, or we keep it simple. So it all depends on what kind of group you are dealing with. So sometimes 3, 5, or 7 minutes is enough. Frequency is important. Do it systematically. Try to provide them with opportunities for retrieval practice at every single meeting, all right? Sometimes make it simple, sometimes make it challenging so that they have to venture out of their comfort zone. And I have one idea that I use quite frequently because I simply love it. I'm sure that you know the exercise called Name 3. So for example, when we want to revise vocabulary related to food, so we might ask our students, name 3 kinds of food that are sweet, or name 3 kinds of food that are yellow. But I modify this activity a little bit, and I ask my students, name 2 things that belong to Frida Kahlo. Activities you do once in a blue moon. All these issues, all these questions appear in the first unit of Formula B2. Verbs that go with the preposition to. So I don't give them the verb. I ask them to come up with the verb themselves, okay? Advantages of being an early bird. We had this early bird phrase in the unit, but then they have to dig deeper. They have to put the knowledge of the word to use, to practical use. Reasons why the color blue is so rare in nature. We were talking about it, but now they have to employ all the vocab that they learned in the unit. People you look up to. Here I wanted to make sure that my students understand what look up to means, but at the same time, I wanted to provoke them to deeper thinking. Consequences of insomnia. We were talking about sleeplessness, but now go deeper, think about the consequences. Things you know about solving open-close tasks. So we are climbing at this metacognitive level, and steps you need to take during speaking part 1 interview. We were talking about this as well. So there is a whole variety of words that you can employ in order to create such lists, okay? And it's a very challenging task for the students. So name 2 justifications for a certain problem, name 2 trends in technology, name 2 strengths or weaknesses. It's very challenging because it simply involves them into thinking on a very deep level. Not only, you know, giving the counterpart of the English counterpart of the word that you are asking them in your native language, but they have they have to transfer this knowledge and to prove that they can use this knowledge. So name only 2, but what happens next? I ask another student to add 1 more. So the students exchange the lists, all right? So already there are 2 things that belong to Frida Kahlo, but another student has to write 1 more thing, okay? 1 more activity, 1 more verb, 1 more advantage, and so on and so forth, okay? So they are confronted with the challenge and they work in a group, all right? And sometimes the lists are really long and they are competing because they are trying to prove that they can add yet another item to the list. As you have probably seen, we don't need to view technology as part of the very fabric of our teaching. We can choose specific features. And as we said at the beginning, we can just try to experiment with them. We can see how they work in different groups with different students and what other uses we can think of them. We can blend paper and digital solutions. We can use digital solutions in the classroom and paper solutions outside the classroom, because this is what Formula courseware was designed for. We can use presentation tool in a variety of ways. We can use test generator to produce tests that do not test, but diagnose students and help them to realize how much they know and how much they still need to learn. So tests that have a learning value. We can use and mix components, pick and choose exercises and methods due to formula flexibility. So when we talk about different hacks, I don't know if you know about this one, okay, that sometimes when you are looking for, you live and learn, yes, and sometimes when you are looking for the end of the duct tape, okay, so it's enough to secure it with the paper clip. So having used the formula for a year with unique approach of the course to organize topics and each team becoming a prism through which a number of different topics are filtrated, I deeply believe that this topic-based curriculum has become outdated to a certain way. And at least for me, there is no coming back to it. Like, you know, when you learn this life hack and say to yourself, where has it been all my life? Okay, why did I learn about it so late? So like finding out about this paper clip. So I'm sure that when you're working with formula, you will come up with your own hacks to make it even more effective, more efficient, more productive and creative for your students. Thank you very much for attention.